How would you compare the difficulty of writing a pilot to writing for an active show? Do you think the pay reflects the difficulty of the work? Great question. So writing a pilot episode requires so much more work and thought than writing for an episode of an existing show that you can expect to get paid easily 10 times as much money. And that's because for a pilot, you're creating a world and the characters in that world have to fit together in such a way that it's like a puzzle, so that every week you have new ways to find conflict between all these characters. And that's really hard to do. That's why a writer may work on a show, on a hit show for like 10 seasons, and then they get an opportunity to create their own show, and that gets on the air, and that show isn't nearly as good as the one they were writing on. And it's because even though there's a lot of different skill sets that are overlapping between writing a pilot and an existing show, there's a new element that you have to add, which is really hard to do. So when I was writing my book, A Paper Orchestra, it's a collection of true short stories. So it's personal essays. And so people ask me, well, why didn't you write a novel? Make it all up. And well, I didn't want to do that. So when I wrote the personal essays, I didn't have to create these worlds. The characters are all real. The stories are all real. They happened. So no one has said, I don't buy this happening, because it did happen. No one has said, I don't buy these characters, because the characters are real. And that left me a lot of energy to focus on how best to unpack the details of each story. Because a story can be told a million different ways. That's why a remake may feel very different from the original movie or whatever. So like if you go watch Ripley on Netflix, starring Andrew Scott, that's very different than the talented Mr. Ripley starring Matt Damon years ago. But it's the same exact story. And so that allowed me, when I was writing A Paper Orchestra, I could focus on one thing really, which is how best to unpack the details of that story. Because what's the tone? What moments am I putting in? What moments am I leaving out? How am I building to this big scene? And that left me, now I can focus on what I feel is the fun stuff. And I don't know, to me it's like a hack. I get to write stories. I really get to put my best into the story tonally. How do I make it funny? How do I really, make this pop? So thank you. A Paper Orchestra is available here or there. It's an audiobook as well. You're going to love it. Thank you for the question.